Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thumma amma ba'd. Ya hayyu ya qayyum bi rahmatika astaghithu aslih li sha'ni kullahu wa la takilni ila nafsi tarfata 'ain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Inshallah bidnillah, today we will be continuing the study of the Quran. We will be covering, as mentioned before, one juz per day, and this is our second day bi'idnillah. Today we will be covering juz 2, the second juz. And before I start reading the juz, the tafsir, I will mention the key highlights of this juz, inshallah bi'idnillah. So the first thing to mention about juz 2 is that the second juz of the Quran focuses on guidance and the laws revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It covers laws related to fasting, hajj, marriage, divorce, warfare, and criminal law. It also emphasizes that the Quran is a guidance for both people who are cautious about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all of humanity. The theme of guidance continues in verses related to Ramadan, emphasizing gratitude for the guidance in the holy month. Dua, supplication, is highlighted as an essential theme throughout the first three juz, with a reminder to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through prayer. Allah's reminder that He is near when His servants asks for anything, emphasizing the importance of complete submission to experience the benefits of guidance. The juz concludes with the story of the children of Israel, underscoring the importance of following Allah's guidance for success. Surah Al-Baqarah contains Ayatul Kursi, and this is the greatest ayah of the Quran. It is also a dua for protection and a reminder of Allah's greatness. The closing verses of the surah confirm belief in Allah's guidance and include a dua acknowledging human weakness and seeking Allah's forgiveness and guidance. So these were the main highlights of this juz, inshallah bi'idhnillah. And now we will be reading directly from the juz. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Now, Suratul Baqarah. We will be continuing from the second juz, verse number 142. It says, "The foolish and weak-minded among the Jews and those like them from among the hypocrites will ask, what turned the Muslims away from the prayer direction of Jerusalem, which was their direction of prayer before? Tell them, O Prophet, in reply, that to Allah belongs the east and the west and every direction, and He directs whomever He wills to His servants to whatever direction He wills. He guides whom He wills of His servants to the right path, which is free of distortions and misguidance. Just as I made a direction of prayer for you, I have chosen you to be a good, just, and balanced nation from among all the communities. In your beliefs and in your beliefs and your ways of worship and in your transactions, so that you will be witnesses for the prophets of Allah on the day of judgment, confirming that they delivered the messages Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed them to deliver to their people. And so that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will also witness that he delivered his message to you. Allah changed the direction of prayer so that you used to face Jerusalem to demonstrate who was content with Allah's decree, willingly doing as He instructed and following the messenger, and to also demonstrate who turns away from his religion, following his own desire and not obeying Allah's sacred law. The first change of prayer direction was difficult, except for those who Allah granted faith to and who were certain that whatever He decrees for His servants has far-reaching wisdom and underlying reasons behind it. Allah will not make you lose your faith in Him or your good actions, including the prayers you prayed before the change of the prayer direction. Allah is kind and compassionate with people, not overburdening them, and they will not lose the reward of their actions. Allah saw you, O Prophet, turning your face and gazing towards the heavens, anticipating revelation about changing the direction of prayer to the place you loved. Allah will turn you to a prayer direction which you will be pleased with, to the sacred house of Allah, instead of the prayer direction you now face. So turn your face to the sacred house of Allah in Makkah, which is the Kaaba, and wherever you are. O believers, turn towards it to perform your prayers. Those who have been given the scripture, the Jews and the Christians, know well that the change of prayer direction is the truth revealed from their Creator, who arranges and manages their lives, as it is clear in their scripture. Allah is not unaware of what those who turn away from the truth do. He, glory be to Him, is aware of everything and will reward them according to their actions. By Allah, if you provided the Jews and the Christians who have been given the scripture with every sign and proof that the change of the prayer direction was the truth, they would not face your prayer direction, stubborn against what you say and too proud to follow the truth. You will not face their prayer direction after Allah has directed you away from it, and they will not face the prayer direction of one another, because each group calls the other disbelievers, and because they follow their desires in the matter of the prayer direction and in other sacred laws and rulings, even after the true knowledge which was revealed to you and about which there is no doubt. If you were to leave guidance and follow their desires, you would certainly be of the wrongdoers. Here Allah addresses the prophets directly. Here Allah addresses the prophets directly to show how wrong it would be to follow them. Of course, Allah has protected the Prophet himself from ever doing so, and this was a warning for his followers after him. The scholars of the Jews and the Christians to whom Allah gave the scripture recognize Muhammad ﷺ as completely as they recognize their own children and distinguish them from others. Nevertheless, a group of them hide the truth that has come to them out of envy, fully aware that it is the truth. This is the truth from your Lord. So make absolutely certain, O Messenger, that you are not one of those who doubt its truth. Every nation has a direction they turn to, whether physically or spiritually. For this reason, there is a difference between them in their directions of prayer and in their sacred laws. There is nothing wrong with them facing different directions if it is by Allah's command and law. So try to outdo each other's. O believers, in doing the good actions that you have been instructed to do, Allah will bring you together from wherever you may be on the day of judgment to reward you accordingly to what you have done. Allah has power over all things. It is not difficult for Him to bring you all together and reward you. Wherever you come from and wherever you are, you, O Prophet, and your followers are to face towards the sacred mosque, the Kaaba in Mecca, where you want to pray. It is the truth that has been revealed to you from your Lord. Allah is not unaware of what you do. Rather, He is aware of all that you do, and you will be rewarded accordingly. Wherever you come from, O Prophet, when you want to pray, turn towards the direction of the sacred mosque. And wherever you may be, O believers, turn your face towards it if you want to pray, so that the people will have no argument against you except those of them who are wrongdoers. They will remain in their stubbornness, arguing against you with the weakest of arguments. Do not fear them, but fear your Lord. Follow His instructions and keep away from what He has prohibited. Allah instructed you to face the Kaaba to perfect His blessing upon you, distinguishing you from all other communities and building you to the noblest direction of prayer, and guiding you to the noblest direction of prayer. Allah blessed you in another way, which is sending a messenger to you from among you, who recites His verses purifying you by directing you to virtue and goodness, and forbidding you from evil and wrong, teaching you the Quran and the Sunnah, and teaching you worldly and sacred knowledge which you do not know, or which you did not know. So remember Allah with your hearts and your whole beings, and He will remember you with approval and protection, for you are rewarded according to what you do. Also be grateful to Allah for the blessings He has given you, and do not be ungrateful by denying them or using them in prohibited ways. O you who have faith in Allah and follow His Messenger, ask for help from Allah in everything, through the beauty of patience and by establishing the prayer in the way Allah has instructed. Allah is truly with those who are patient, giving them success and helping them. Do not say, O believers, about those who are killed while striving in Allah's path, that they are dead, just as others are. Rather, they are alive with their Lord, but you do not realize that they are living, because the way in which they are alive can only be understood through revelation from Allah. Allah will test people with different types of hardships. Some with the fear of those who are against them, hunger because of lack of food, lack of money because of losing it or difficulty gaining it, loss of lives because due to death from diseases and tragedies that kill people, or being martyred for the sake of Allah, and lack of resources from the earth. Give good news, O Prophet, to those who are patient in the face of these hardships, of what will make them happy in this world and in the hereafter. The patient are those who, when they are struck by one of these hardships, say in acceptance that all power belongs to Allah. He deals with us as He wills, and we will return to Him on the day of judgment. And it is He who created us and showered us with many blessings. So to Him is our return and our end. Those who possess these virtues are praised by Allah in the highest gathering of angels, and mercy descends on them. They are the ones guided to the path of truth. The two mountains known as Safa and Marwa near to the Kaaba are landmarks of the clear sacred law. Whoever goes to Kaaba to perform the acts of Hajj or Umrah, there is no fault in them walking between the two mountains. By clarifying that there was no fault in this action, Allah was comforting those Muslims who avoided walking between the mountains because they feared it was unacceptable action from the time of ignorance before Islam. But Allah made it clear that the walking between the mountains was an acceptable act of Hajj. Whoever sincerely does what is recommended of voluntary sacred acts, Allah acknowledges them and rewards them. He is aware of who does good and is worthy of being rewarded. Those Jews and Christians who hide the clear proofs which Allah revealed, showing the truth of the Prophet and what he brought, after Allah had made it clear to the people in their scriptures, Allah removes them from His mercy, and all the angels, the prophets, and people call for them to be removed from His mercy. Subhanallah. The exception of those who repent to Allah, asking for forgiveness and regretting having hidden their clear signs, correcting what they do outwardly and inwardly, and making clear the truth and guidance which they had hidden. Allah accepts their repentance to Him. He turns to those who turns to Him, asking for forgiveness and regretting what they have done, and He forgives and is compassionate with them. Those who disbelieve and die in disbelief not having repented, they are condemned by Allah by being removed from His mercy, and the angels and the people all call for them to be removed and excluded from Allah's mercy. They will always be condemned, and their punishment will not be lightened, not even for a day, and they will not be given any extra time on the day of judgment. O people, your Allah is the true Allah, the one, unique in His essence and attributes. There is no other true Allah. And He is the merciful, and His mercy is vast. He is compassionate with His creation, surrounding them with many blessings. The following are clear signs of the oneness of Allah. Glory be to Him for those who understand the evidence and proof. The creation of the heaven and the earth, and the wonders in them, the succession of the night and the day, the passing of the life and death, happiness and sorrow, wealth and poverty, ships that sail through the water of the sea, carrying food, clothes, trading, and other things that people need and which benefit them, water that Allah sends down, bringing the earth to life with the agriculture and pasture that grows in it, and the living creatures He spreads out in it, the changing of the winds from one direction to another, and the clouds controlled between the sky and the earth. Even with these clear signs, there are people who take others besides Allah and loving them as they love Allah. Those who have real faith love Allah more than those others love their gods. They do not worship anyone besides Him, and they love Him in hardship and in ease. While those others only love their love their gods when things are going well. When things go bad, they call on Allah alone. Subhanallah. If the wrongdoers could see with their own eyes the punishment that awaits in the hereafter for those who worship others with Allah and commit sins, then they would know that all power belongs to Allah alone, and that He is firm in punishing those who stubbornly rebel. If they saw this, then they would not worship anyone with Allah. Then the leaders who were followed in disbelief will reject the weak people who followed them because of seeing the terrors and hardships on the day of judgment. So all ties and means of escape will be cut off from them. The weak and those who followed them, or those who followed the leaders, will say, if only we could go back to the earth, we would reject our leaders as they rejected us, as they reject us. Allah shows them the severe punishment in the afterlife and the consequence of following their leaders in falsehood, regrets and sorrow, and they will never leave the fire of hell. O people, eat from the meat, vegetables, and fruits on the earth, which are lawful and good and not harmful. Do not follow the actions of Satan and his evil whisperings. He is a clear enemy who is hostile to you. Anyone with sense would not follow an enemy who wants to harm and mislead them. Satan only commands harmful, evil actions and disobedience, which will bring hardship, as well as for you to say things about faith in Allah and His sacred laws that have not been given to you by Allah and His Prophet. In this ayah, something very important is mentioned, and that is speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge. And this is a severe crime, and this is something that Satan is very happy if he is able to make you say something about the deen of Allah which you are not aware of. You have no knowledge of that, and you're just making it up, or you're saying without knowledge. So that's why it's a great sin to speak about the deen of Islam, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge. If these disbelievers are told to follow the guidance and light which Allah revealed, they say, resisting stubbornly, that they will follow the beliefs and customs that their fathers followed. Do they follow their fathers even though they understand nothing of guidance or the light, or were not guided to the truth that Allah accepts? The example of those who disbelieve and stubbornly follow the path of their fathers is like the example of the shepherd who shouts, calling to his animals that hear his voice but do not understand what he says. They are deaf to hearing the truth so that it will benefit them, dumb as they are unable to speak about the truth, and blind to seeing it. And because of this, they do not understand the guidance which you call them to. Subhanallah. O you who have faith in Allah and follow His Messenger, consume the good things that Allah has provided and allowed for you, and be thankful to Allah outwardly and inwardly for the overwhelming blessings He has given you. Part of being thankful to Him is acting with complete devotion to Him and not going against Him. If you truly worship Him alone and do not worship anything besides Him. Allah has only forbidden you from consuming that which died without being sacrificed according to the sacred law and having its blood flow. The meat of pigs and what has had other than Allah's name mentioned over it when it was sacrificed. Yet if someone is forced to eat something of these forbidden types and does not sin by eating it when they are not in need, nor do they go beyond the limits of what is necessary, then they have done no wrong and will receive no punishment. Allah is forgiving and compassionate to whomever repents to Him. And it is from His mercy that He overlooks the eating of forbidden things when it is necessary. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the haram things, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, yani if you are in dire need of it, then there is no harm and you can eat it as much as it is necessary, not that you go overboard on that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you for that. Now, those who hide what Allah revealed in the scriptures and the signs of the truth and prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the Jews and the Christians did, getting something small in return for what they hide, such as leadership, status, or money, they only fill their stomachs with that which will cause them to suffer in the fire of hell. Then on the day of judgment, Allah will not speak to them with words that make them joyful, but they will only hear that which makes them sad. They will not be praised, and they will have a painful punishment. Those who hide knowledge exchange guidance for misguidance, as they hide the truth and exchange the forgiveness of Allah for His punishment. How determined they are to do things that will lead them into the hellfire, as if they do not realize what suffering it contains. That punishment is what they get for hiding knowledge and guidance, because Allah revealed the sacred scriptures in truth, which must be made clear and not hidden. Also, those who disagree with the sacred scripture, believing some of it and hiding some of it, have taken a position that is far from the truth. Doing good that pleases Allah does not just mean turning towards the east or the west or disputing about that. Rather, it is having faith in Allah. It is having faith in Allah as the only Allah, the Day of Judgment, all of the angels, all of the revealed scriptures, and all of the prophets, without distinguishing between them. Charitable spending, despite loving and valuing wealth, to relatives, orphans, the poor, the stranger, who is cut off from his family and homeland because of a journey, and whoever has a need that makes it necessary for them to ask people for help. Giving money to free slaves from captivity, establishing the prayer as Allah instructed, giving zakah, being true to promises, and patience in poverty, hardships, illness, and in times of conflict, without fleeing. Such people are those who are true to Allah in their faith and in what they do. They are the mindful who follow what Allah has instructed them to do and who stay away from what Allah has prohibited. O you who have faith in Allah and follow His Messenger, it is decreed for you that in cases where someone deliberately attacks and kills someone, the punishment for the murderer should be the same as their crime. The free man killed for the free man, the slave for the slave, and the female for the female. If the people killed had forgiven before his death, or his guardian has forgiven in return for the payment of blood money, a sum of money paid by the murderer in return for being pardoned, then the person who forgives should ask for the sum of money fairly, and not follow that up with insult or injury. And the murderer should pay the sum of money in a good way without hesitation and delay. In allowing this forgiveness and the payment of blood money, your Lord makes things easier for you. And this is a mercy for the Muslim nation. Whoever attacks the murderer after his pardon and the acceptance of the blood money will receive a painful punishment from Allah. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it easy. But if you take advantage of that and then you go and then you use it against someone, then this will have a severe consequence. In the law of equivalent punishment decreed by Allah, there is life for you, because it spares your blood, stopping further attack between you. Those with sense understands this, who are mindful of Allah, keeping to His sacred law and doing as He instructed. It has been decreed for you that if one of you is about to die, and they are leaving a large amount of wealth behind, then they should make a will for their parents and close relatives according to the sacred law, not exceeding 1/3 of the wealth, the rest of the wealth being distributed according to the law of inheritance. Making this will is a firm duty on those who are mindful of Allah. This ruling was revealed before the verses about inheritance. So when the verses about inheritance were revealed, it was made clear who should inherit from the person who has died and how much they should inherit. Okay? So whoever then changes the will, adding to it or taking away from it or stopping something when they know what the will contains, the sin of it will be upon those who changes it. And the person who wrote the will is not held responsible for what they did. Allah hears all that His creations say and know all what they do. And He knows every detail of the situation they are in. Whoever knows that there is an error in judgment from the person who made the will, or that there is some injustice in it, and advises the person and rectifies the wrong and reconciles between those who are in disagreement about it, then there is no blame on them. Rather, they are rewarded for putting things right. Allah is forgiving towards whomever of His servants repent to Him, and is compassionate with Him. O you who have faith in Allah and follow His Prophet, Allah has ordered you to fast as Allah has ordered you to fast as He ordered those before you, so that you may become mindful of Allah, protecting yourself from His punishment by doing good actions, fasting being one of the best of this. You are ordered to fast for a small number of days in the year, yet whoever of you is ill with an illness that makes fasting difficult or traveling, then they do not need to fast, but they can make up for these days by fasting the same number of other days. Those who are able to fast but do not should compensate by feeding a poor person for every day they do not fast. Fasting is better for you than not fasting and feeding a poor person instead, if you only knew what goodness there is in fasting. This was the first of Allah's law about fasting. Whoever wanted to fast did so, and whoever did not want to fast was permitted not to, and fed a poor people instead. Afterwards, Allah made fasting a duty on every able person who has reached puberty. Okay? The Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ on the night of the decree in the month of Ramadan. Allah revealed it as a guidance for the people, with clear proofs of its guidance and the criterion between the truth and falsehood. Whoever reaches the month of Ramadan and is well and healthy is required to fast. And whoever is ill or for whom fasting is difficult or is traveling, then they may break their fast. If they do not fast, then they must perform make-up fasts for the days they missed at another time. Allah intends ease and not hardship in what He decrees for you, and wants you to complete the right number of days, and to glorify Him upon the completion of Ramadan on the day of Eid, as He helped you and made it possible for you to fast, so that you thank Allah for guiding you to the religion which He has approved for you. If they think you, O Prophet, about how close Allah is, if they ask you, O Prophet, about how close Allah is and about His answering of prayer, Allah is close to them and knows everything about them. He hears their prayers, and they do not need intermediaries or to raise their voices. Allah responds to the call of whoever calls Him sincerely, praying to Him. So let them be devoted to Him and His sacred law, firm in their faith, as that is the best route to Allah's response. Perhaps in that way they might be rightly guided in the worldly and sacred matters. At first, it was not allowed for a man, if he had gone to sleep on the night of the fast, and then woke up before dawn, to eat or drink, or approach his wife. Allah replaced this ruling, allowing you, O believers, to have relation with your wives during the nights of fasting. They are a protection for you, keeping you pure, and you are a cover for them, keeping them pure. You both need each other. Allah knows that you were betraying yourselves by doing what you were not allowed to. So He had mercy on you, turning to you when you asked for forgiveness, and made things easier for you. So have relation with them and seek the children Allah has decreed for you, and eat and drink during the whole of the night until the break of true dawn is clear to you. Then complete your fast, not consuming anything from the break of dawn until sunset, but do not have relations with your wives when you are in spiritual retreat in the mosques, which is the i'tikaf, what the brothers do, the i'tikaf in the masjid in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. This is what it's talking about, because that invalidates the retreat, i.e. the i'tikaf. These rules are limits of Allah between what is allowed and what is forbidden. So do not go near them. Whoever goes near the limits of Allah is close to falling into what is prohibited. By clearly setting out such laws, Allah makes His signs obvious to people so that they may be mindful of Him and do what He instructs and leave what He has prohibited. Do not take each other's wealth unjustly, robbing or taking it by force or by cheating, and then making a legal dispute in order to obtain their wealth wrongfully, when you know that Allah has prohibited that. Committing a sin knowingly is the worst of things and has the greatest punishments. They ask you, O Messenger, about the formation of the new moons and their changing states. Tell them in reply about the wisdom behind them, that they measure time for people so that they know when to do their acts of worship, such as the months of Hajj and fasting and the completion of the year of Zakah. They also fix time frames of transactions, such as the deadlines for paying blood money or debts. It is not righteousness or goodness that you come to your houses from the rear wearing your ihram, yani from the back door, wearing your ihram of Hajj and Umrah. Yani this is what the people of the before Islam, they used to think, that when you return from Hajj or Umrah, you should enter the house from the back door, not from the front. Okay? As they used to claim during the time of ignorance before Islam. Rather, true righteousness is the righteousness of whoever is mindful outwardly and inwardly. So enter houses with their correct doors, because it is easier for you and less troublesome. Allah does not overburden you with difficulty, so protect yourself from the punishment of Allah by doing good, in order that you may be successful in achieving what you wish for and in escaping from what you fear. Fight in order to raise the word of Allah against those who disbelieve, who fight you to turn you away from your religion, from the religion of Allah. But do not overstep the limits of Allah by killing children, women, the elderly, or by mutilating the dead, and so on. Allah does not love Allah does not love those who overstep the limits He has established and made sacred. And kill them where you come across them, and make them leave the place they made you leave, which is Makkah. An oppression that stops those who believe from worshipping, making them return to disbelief, and ungratefulness is worse than killing. And do not fight with them in the sacred mosque out of respect of it, unless they start fighting with you, or unless they start fighting you there. If they start fighting in the sacred mosque, then kill them, and fighting them if they attack the sacred mosque is the reward of those who deny the truth. If these aggressive disbelievers stop fighting you and stop disbelieving, then stop fighting them. Allah forgiving to whomever repents to Him with regret. Yani Allah forgives to whoever repents to Him out of regret, asking for forgiveness, and does not hold them to account for the disobedience they did before. He is compassionate with them and not quick to punish. Fight the disbelievers until they do not prevent people from Allah's path, and there is no disbelief, and until the dominant way of life is the path of Allah. But if they stop their disbelief and stop preventing others from the path of Allah, then stop fighting them. There is to be no aggression except against those who oppress through disbelief and by preventing people from the path of Allah. The sacred month in which Allah allowed you to enter sacred mosque and perform Umrah in the 7th year after the migration is a compensation for the sacred month when you were stopped by the idolaters from entering the sacred mosque in the 6th year after migration. The law of equality applies when the limits are overstepped in regards to sacred things such as the sacred land, sacred month, and being in an ordered state of purity, which is ihram for pilgrimage to the sacred month, to the sacred mosque. When someone wrongs you in any of this, treat them as they treat you, but do not go beyond what they have done. Allah does not love those who overstep His limits. Be mindful of Allah by not going beyond what He has given you permission to do. Know that Allah is with those who are mindful of Him, giving them success and supporting them. Spend your wealth in obedience to Allah, in striving for His sake, and do not throw yourselves into destruction by leaving the struggle and spending for His sake, or by throwing yourself into something that will cause you destruction. Behave with excellence and kindness in your worship, transactions, and behavior. Allah loves those who always do good, giving them a greater reward and leading them to true guidance. Perform Hajj and Umrah in a complete way, seeking only Allah's pleasure. If you are prevented from completing them by illness or an enemy, then you should sacrifice what is equally available of sacrificial animals such as camels, cows, or sheep before you take off your ihram. And do not shave your heads or cut your hair until the sacrificial animals have reached their place. If you are prevented from entering the sacred sanctuary, then perform the sacrifice wherever you have stopped. Yet if you can enter it, then do it on the day of sacrifice, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, or at least within the days of Tashriq, the 11th, 12th, and the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Whoever among you is ill or have some problem with their hair or their head, like lice or something similar, whoever shaved his head for that reason, that is not a problem. But they should instead fast for 3 days or feed 6 poor people from the area of the sanctuary, or sacrifice a sheep to be distributed among the poor of the sanctuary. If you are living in times of peace, then whoever takes the opportunity to perform Umrah in the month of Hajj, enjoying in between those things that are not allowed when performing the pilgrimages, they should sacrifice whatever is easily available: a sheep, or a seventh of a cow or camel, or a seventh of a camel or cow. If they are unable to make a sacrifice, then they must fast for 3 days during the days of Hajj to make up for it, and the seven more days when they return home, making 10 days altogether. This practice of having a break between Umrah and Hajj, and sacrificing an animal or fasting for those unable to make a sacrifice, is only for people who do not live within or close to the sanctuary of the sacred mosque. As for those who live within the sanctuary or close to it, they do not do this, because they have no need to due to their constant being there and enjoying being able to make Umrah and or Tawaf freely any other time of the year. Be mindful of Allah by following what He makes sacred law, and by respecting His limits, and know that Allah is firm in punishing those who go against His instructions, or who goes against what He instructed. The time of Hajj is well-known months, starting with the month of Shawwal and ending on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. Sexual relations and things that lead to it are prohibited for many people who decide to perform the Hajj in this month once he enters in the state of Ihram. In addition, prohibition of going against Allah by committing sins becomes even more emphasized at this time due to the sacredness of the time and place. The pilgrim may not quarrel with anyone, causing them to become angry and leading to a fight. If you do any good, Allah knows and will reward you for that. And this is a reminder for those who plan to do Hajj. I have personally seen this. People they tend to lose their temper, and they behave like insanely. They get so angry because of the heat and the pressure and everything. But these are the ayahs that should remind us that we are in Hajj, and it is not permissible for us to show impatience and to shout and quarrel, and use slangs. May Allah not make us of those. To perform the Hajj, take an adequate amount of food and drink, but remember that the best provision is always being mindful of Allah. O people of sound mind, fear Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions. And this is another reminder. Many times when people are preparing for Hajj, they think of a backpack for a good shoe, for a good, good clothing, good water bottles and things like that, all the preparations they need. But rarely do people think about their taqwa. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that the biggest provision that you can take with you is being mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being careful of what you do and what you say, which might destroy your Hajj. No. There is no sin in seeking lawful provision by trading or other ways during the Hajj. When you leave Arafah after having spent the day there on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, and when you head towards Muzdalifah on the night before the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, remember Allah by glorifying and praising Him, and by praying to Him at the sacred place in Muzdalifah. Remember that Allah has guided you to the teaching of His path and the acts of Hajj to His house. You were unaware of the sacred laws before this. Then leave Arafah just as the Prophet Ibrahim used to do, and do not leave out stopping at Arafah as the people of ignorance used to do. Seek forgiveness from Allah from any defects in the performance of Hajj, for Allah is forgiving towards those of His servants who repent and is merciful towards them. Whenever you have completed the acts of Hajj, remember and praise Him much. just as you boast about and praise your forefathers, subhanallah, or even more than that, because every favor that you enjoy comes from him. People are different. Some are disbelieving idolaters who only believe in this worldly life. Such people only ask Allah for the blessing of this world and its beauty in the form of wealth and health, yani health, wealth and children, and will not receive anything of what Allah has prepared for His faithful servants in the afterlife. This is because of their desire of this world and their neglect of the afterlife. Yet there is another group of people who has faith in Allah and afterlife, and who ask their Lord for blessing in this world, the blessings in this world and the ability to do good, just as they ask Him for entry into paradise and safety from the punishment of the fire of hell. Those that prayed for good in this world and the afterlife will receive their share of great reward for their good actions in the world. Allah is swift in taking account of actions. He will reward those that do good and those that do evil to task. And this should remind us, there are some among us, when we make dua, even our dua is for this dunya. Ya Allah, give me a beautiful spouse, give me a lot of money, give me a car, give me this and give me that, give me rizq. And there are people who ask for the dunya, which is necessary for them, and with that they ask for the akhirah as well. And these are the people who are actually successful. Subhanallah. Remember Allah by saying Allahu Akbar and La ilaha illallah on the 11th, 12th and 13th of Dhul Hijjah. If anyone is in a hurry, he may leave Mina after pelting stones on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, and there will be no sin, as Allah has granted the permission. It is also acceptable if someone stays to pelt stones on the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. In fact, this is better and was the action of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also of this applies to those that are mindful of Allah during their Hajj and carries it out according with Allah's instruction. Be mindful of Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions. Be sure that you will return to Him alone, and He will recompense you for your actions. There is a type of person who is actually a hypocrite, but his speech with respect to the life of this world impresses you, O Prophet, and you consider him to be honest and sincere because of his wonderful words. However, his only goal in speaking words of faith is to protect his personal and financial interests. He calls people to witness that he has faith and goodness in his heart, while he is in fact lying. He bears great hostility and hatred for the Muslims. When this hypocrite leaves you, he works hard to cause corruption by committing sins, and he destroys crops and kills animals. Allah does not love corruption in the land, and He does not love those that causes corruption. When this person who causes corruption is advised to be mindful of Allah by respecting His limits and avoiding His prohibitions, his pride and arrogance prevents him from repenting and continues to sin. The only appropriate reward for him is the entry into hell. What a terrible place to reside in for its inhabitants. There is another type of person who is a believer, who will sell and give up his soul to follow his Lord and strive in the path, seeking His pleasure, Allah's mercy, for His servants is vast and He is kind to them. O you who have faith in Allah and follow His messenger, enter Islam completely and do not leave out any part of it, like how the people of the scripture believed in some part of the book and disbelieved in others. Do not follow the way of the Satan, because he has made it clear that he is your enemy. If you slip up and go astray after clear proofs have come to you, then know that Allah is mighty in His ability and power, wise in His planning, establishing of sacred laws. So fear and glorify Him. These people who follow the path of Satan instead of following the path of truth are waiting only for Allah to come to them as befits His majesty. On the day of resurrection, in the shadows of cloud, to judge them, and for the angels to come and surround them from all sides. At that time, Allah will judge them once and for all, and to Allah shall all affairs relating to the creation return. Subhanallah. O Prophet, ask the Jews about how many clear signs proving the truthfulness of the messengers were given to them by Allah. Despite this, they disbelieved and turned away from them. If anyone changes the favor of Allah into disbelief and denial after being aware of it, and after it has become obvious, then Allah is strong in punishing the disbelievers and the deniers. For those who disbelieve in Allah, the worldly life and its temporary pleasures and enjoyments have been made to them glorious. So, look into this ayah again. For those who disbelieve in Allah, then for them the worldly life and the temporary pleasures and enjoyments have been made glamorous for them. Subhanallah. They mock at those who have faith in Allah in the last day. Those who are mindful of Allah by fulfilling His commands and avoiding His prohibitions will be above such people in the afterlife, when Allah will make them live in the gardens of paradise. Allah gives without any limit or account to whichever of His creation He wishes. Subhanallah. Think of these people that make fun of the Muslims, that say, oh, you guys are miskeen, you tullabul ilm, you scholars of Islam, you guys are like beggars and things like that. Oh, you guys of Islam, you can't have fun in your life and this and that. They make fun of you. This is what Allah is saying. Allah will make the dunya glamorous for them. But on the day of judgment, the people of taqwa will be above them. May Allah make us of those. And make us from the people of taqwa. People were one community. All of them were in agreement and guided, following the way of their father Adam, until Satan misguided them. They were then split into believers and disbelievers. For this reason, Allah sent messengers bringing good news of the mercy of Allah for those who had faith in Him and followed Him, and warning the disbelievers of the severe punishment of Allah. Together with the messengers, Allah also sent books containing the undoubtable truth, so that they could judge between people with respect to their disagreements. It was only those who were given the Torah that differed with regards to the matter of Muhammad and his message, despite it being clear. They did this out of injustice and jealousy. Allah then enabled the believers to recognize guidance from misguidance by His permission and will. Allah guides whomever He wishes to a perfectly straight path, which is the path of faith. Do you believers think that you will enter paradise whilst you have not faced a trial, like the people of the past? They were afflicted with severe sickness and poverty, and were shaken by frightening events to the extent that they wanted the help of Allah to come as quick as possible. And the messenger and the believers with him began saying, when is the help of Allah coming? The help of Allah is close to those who have faith and trust in Him. Your companions, O Prophet, ask you what they should spend from their wealth and where they should allocate it. Say to them in reply, any permissible and pure wealth you spend should be given to parents, close relatives in need, needy orphans, the poor who have no wealth, and the travelers who is cut off from his family and home. Allah knows of any good you do as believers, no matter how small it is. Nothing is hidden from him, and he will reward you for it. Fighting in Allah's path has been chosen for believers, even though it is something that is naturally disliked, because it means risking one's life and wealth. However, you may dislike something when it is good and beneficial. An example of this is striving in the path of Allah, which means, in addition to the great reward, the defeat of the enemy and the promotion of Allah's word. On the other hand, you may like something whilst it is bad for you and harmful to you, such as holding back from fighting. This will result you in being defeated and the enemies gaining authority over you. Allah knows full well what is good and what is not, whereas you do not. You do not know, but Allah knows this. Therefore, follow His instruction, which is better for you. The people ask you, O Prophet, about the law regarding fighting in the sacred month of Dhul Qada and Dhul Hijjah, Muharram and Rajab. Say to them, fighting in this month is a serious offense in the sight of Allah and is detested, just as the idolaters prevent from the path of Allah is also disapproved. Blocking the believers accessing to the sacred mosque and removing the people of the sacred mosque from it is worse than fighting in the sacred month in the sight of Allah. Their idolatry is worse than killing. The idolaters will continue their oppression by fighting you until they turn you away from your path, of truth towards their false path, if they are able to. If anyone turns back from path of Allah and dies disbelieving in Allah, his good actions shall be reduced to nothing, and in the afterlife he will end up in the fire of hell, where he will live eternally. Those who have faith in Allah and His Messenger, who leave their homes as immigrants towards Allah and His Messenger and fight to promote Allah's word, are the ones who are eager for Allah's mercy and forgiveness. Allah forgives the sins of His servants and is merciful towards him. O Prophet, your companions ask you about wine, which refers to anything that impairs the mind or intoxicates it, with respect to legal aspects of drinking, selling, and purchasing it. They also ask you about gambling, which refers to wealth taken in a competition between two people in which both contribute to the winning total. Say in response to them, they both have many spiritual and material harms, such as loss of intellect and wealth and the creation of hatred and enmity. On the other hand, there are few benefits, such as financial rewards for the winner of a bet. However, the harm and the sin resulting from them is greater than the benefit. So a logical person should avoid such actions. This statement of Allah lays the foundation of the prohibition of wine. They also ask you, O Prophet, about the amount they should spend in charity. Say in reply to them, spend whatever is easy and in excess of your needs. With such clear explanations, Allah describes the sacred law to you so that you may reflect. Initially, this was the law regarding charity, but later Allah established the obligation of zakah, which requires paying a certain amount on certain possessions if one has owned such possessions for a particular period of time. Now, then it says Allah has established these rules so that you may think about what benefits you in this world and the afterlife. Your companions ask you, O Prophet, about the guardianship of orphans and how they should deal with them, whether they can mix their wealth with that of the orphans for expenses, food and accommodation. Say in reply to them, If you are kind to them by arranging their affairs without taking anything in return and without touching their wealth, it is better in the sight of Allah and carries great reward. It is also better because you will receive your full wealth. However, there is no harm if you mix their wealth with yours for living expenses, as they are your brothers in faith, and it is normal for brothers to help and look after the affairs of one another. Allah knows the guardians who, by mixing the wealth of the orphans of His, means harm, and the ones who means well. If He wished to make it difficult for you with respect to orphans, He could have done so. Instead, He has made it easy for you to deal with them, as the sacred law is based on ease. Allah is mighty and nothing can overpower Him. He is wise in His planning and legislation. Do not get married, O believers, to those women who give partners to Allah until they have faith in Him alone and enter the path of Islam. A woman who is a slave but has faith in Allah and His Messenger is better than a free woman who worships idols, even though you may be impressed by her beauty and her wealth. Do not give Muslim women in marriage to men who are idolaters. A slave man who has faith in Allah and His Messenger is better than a free man who is an idolater, even though he may seem impressive to you. Men and women who commit idolatry invite by their statements and action towards that which will lead to entering the fire of hell. Allah, on the other hand, invites to good actions which will lead to the entry into paradise and forgiveness of sins by His permission and grace. Allah makes His verses clear for people so that they may learn and act obediently. O Prophet, your companions ask you about menses, which is the blood of menstruation that naturally comes out of the womb at a certain time of a month. Say in reply to them, menses is harmful for men and women, so avoid sexual intercourse during this time. Do not approach them for sexual intercourse until the blood stops and they have cleaned themselves by taking a bath. If the blood has stopped and they have cleaned themselves, then you may have sexual intercourse with them through the private part of the woman in a manner that Allah has permitted for you. Allah loves those that frequently repent from their sins and are extra mindful of cleanliness. Your wives are a place for you to sow your seeds. They produce children for you, just as the land produces crops. So approach the plantation, which is the sexual part of the woman, from whichever direction and whichever manner you wish, as long as the intercourse takes place through the natural path, the natural sexual organ of the woman. Send forth something good for yourselves, such as having sexual intercourse with the intention of gaining closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the hope of pious offspring. Be mindful of Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions, such as those relating to women. Know that you are to meet Him on the day of resurrection and will have to stand before Him to receive the reward for your actions. O Prophet, give the believers good news of everlasting blessings that will surely please them when they meet their Lord. Seeing His blessed face. This is one of the greatest reward on the day of for the mu'min, that they get to see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we, the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, affirm the face of Allah for Himself, and we do not deny His attributes like the deviant sects do. Do not use the name of Allah in your oath as an excuse for not doing good. Example, being mindful of Him, being virtuous and reconciling between people. Yet you have taken an oath not to do any good actions. then do good actions and make a compensation for the oath. Allah hears your statements and knows your actions and will reward you for them. Allah will not take you to account for those oaths that you swear unintentionally, such as if someone carelessly say, no Allah, yani no by Allah, or yani saying naam wallahi, yani yes by Allah. For such oaths there is no need to make any compensation nor any further consequences. However, He will take you to account for intentional oaths. Allah forgives and tolerates the sins of His servants and is not hasty in sending punishment. For those who swear an oath not to have sexual intercourse with their wives, there is a waiting period not longer than 4 months, starting from the day of the oath, from the date of the oath. If he abandons the oath and engages in sexual intercourse after having sworn not to, and this happens within the 4 months period, then Allah forgives them. Allah is merciful and has established compensation as a way out for such an oath. If such a man is determined to continue his oath and so passes the 4-month period, intending by that a divorce, then Allah hears their statements, including the divorce, and He knows their states and intentions and will reward them for that. Divorced women must not remarry after a divorce for 3 menstrual periods. If they are true in their faith in Allah and last day, they may not hide the fetus that Allah has created in their wombs. Their husbands who issued the divorce have the first right to recall them during the waiting period if their intention is to live well with them and to cancel what has occurred between them and what has occurred because of the divorce. Wives have rights and obligations like those of husbands in a manner that people consider fair. Men have a higher rank than them in terms of responsibility and in respect to divorce. Allah is mighty and nothing can overcome His decree. He is wise in His legislation and planning. The divorce after which a husband may recall his wife can only happen twice. He may divorce her the first time, recall her, divorce her again, and recall her once more. After 2 divorces, he must either keep her in his marriage, living in a good way with her, or divorce her for the 3rd time, being good for her by fulfilling her rights. Then the wife is temporarily prohibited from him, for him, until she marries another woman. And there's a reference here to see at the ayah 230 below, the next ayah. At the time of divorce, husbands may not take any part of the dowry that they have given to their wives. However, if a woman is unhappy with their husband because of his character or looks, and the couple are of the view that because of this they are not able to fulfill the rights of marriage, then they should present the matter to a person related to them or someone who is familiar with them. If they feel that the couple will not be able to fulfill the rights of the marriage, then there is no harm if the woman offers to give something to the husband in return for a divorce. These laws of Sharia are the criterion for the lawful and the unlawful, so do not overstep them. Whoever oversteps the limits of Allah with regards to the lawful and unlawful, then such people are wronging their own selves by bringing them to destruction and exposing them to Allah's anger and justice. If the husband divorces her for the 3rd time, he may not remarry her until she gets married to another man in a valid marriage that is genuine and not merely a contract to make her lawful for the original husband, and where sexual intercourse has taken place in the later marriage. Should the second husband divorce her or pass away, the woman or her first husband may return to another with a new marriage contract and dowry. if they feel that they will fulfill the rights of each other set out in the sacred law. These rules are made clear by Allah for people who know His laws and limits, as they are the ones who benefit from them. When you divorce women and they approach the end of their waiting period, you have the right to take them back or leave them in a good way until their waiting period is over. Do not take them back in order to oppress them or harm them, oppress them and harm them, as was the practice of the period before Islam. Whoever acts with the aim of causing harm to them has wronged himself by exposing himself to sin and punishment. Do not make Allah's word the object of mockery and play. Remember Allah's favor on you. Most importantly, the revelation you have received in the form of the Quran and the Sunnah, through which He reminds you, to encourage and warn you. Fear Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions. Know that Allah knows everything and that nothing is hidden from Him. He will reward you for your actions. When you divorce women less than 3 times and their waiting period ends, do not stop them from returning to their husbands with a new marriage contract if they wish to do so and they agree with their husbands. This law prohibiting them from being prevented is a piece of advice for the person who has faith in Allah and the last day. If you obey, this will bring greater good to you and keep your honor and actions free from impurities. Allah knows the reality and outcome of matters, whereas you do not. Mothers who intend to complete the period of breastfeeding should nurse their children for 2 full years. The husband and father of the child or of a child is responsible for maintenance and clothing of a divorced mother who breastfeeds her child in accordance with the customs of the society that does not go against the sacred law. No person is burdened beyond what he is able to do. No parent is allowed to use the child as a means to harm others. The heir who would inherit from the child, if the child were to pass away leaving his wealth, shall be responsible if the father dies without leaving any wealth, for the same obligation as that of the father. If the parents decide to wean the child before 2 years finish, then there is no sin on them if this is done after consultation and agreement that it is in the child's best interest. If you wish to hire wet nurses for your children instead of their mothers, there is no sin in doing so, provided you pay the agreed wages for such wet nurses without any shortfall or delay. Be mindful of Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions, and know that Allah sees everything you do and nothing is hidden from Him. He will reward you for any action you do. When someone passes away and leaves behind a wife who is not pregnant, it is the duty of such woman to wait for a period of 4 months and 10 days, in which she must not leave the husband's house, beautify herself, or get married. Once this period ends, there is no blame on their guardians if this woman do these actions which were previously prohibited during the waiting period, as long as it is done in a manner acceptable to the society and the sacred law. Allah is well aware of what you do. None of your private or public actions are concealed from Him, and He will reward you for them. There is no sin on you if you hint your desire to propose a woman who is still in her waiting period after a divorce or after the death of her husband. For example, a person may say, "When your waiting period is over, let me know." So it's like a hint. There is also no sin on you if you keep these desires to yourselves. Allah knows that you will mention them Allah knows that you will mention them because of the strong desire to marry. So he has allowed you to give a hint without being open. Be aware of secretly making any promise to marry them while they are still in their waiting period. However, you may give a hint to them in a manner that is acceptable, but do not confirm the marriage contract in the period of waiting. Know that Allah is aware of what is in your hearts, so be mindful of Him and do not go against His instruction. Know that Allah forgiving to the person who Allah is forgiving. Know that Allah is forgiving to the person who repents to Him, and that He is tolerant and does not often quickly punish. There is no sin on you if you divorce your wives with whom you have entered into marriage before you have any sexual intercourse with them, and before you fix a dowry for them. If you must divorce them in such a situation, then they will not be entitled to any dowry from you, because they must be given something that they will enjoy to make it easy on their feelings. This must be done by both a rich and a poor man according to their means. This gift is binding on those who wish to do good in their actions and dealings. If you divorce your wives with whom you have entered into marriage before having sexual intercourse with them, and you have fixed the amount of the dowry, you will have to pay half of this amount of them, unless they give up this right of theirs, or the husband wishes to pay the full dowry. To give up your right is closer to mindfulness. Do not forget to show kindness and compassion to one another in matters of rights. Allah sees what you do, so try to do what is best to earn His reward. Guard your prayers by fulfilling them completely, as Allah has instructed. In particular, guard the middle prayer, which is the Asr prayer, the afternoon prayer, and stand before Allah in submission and devotion. If you face danger from an enemy or any other danger, and you are not able to offer the prayer completely, then pray whilst walking or riding, on camels, horses, or in a way you can. If the danger has gone, remember Allah as He has taught you. Remembering Him is the most complete manner within the prayer. Remember Him the most complete manner within the prayer. Also remember Him for His having taught you guidance and given you light, which you were previously unaware of. Those of you that pass away, leaving behind wives, must make a bequest for them to be provided with accommodation and maintenance for a period of 1 year, in which your heirs may not remove them. This is to make up for the loss they had suffered, and in respect for the deceased. If they leave before the end of the year by their own choice, there will be no sin on either you or them for what they do with themselves in terms of their beautifications. Allah is mighty and none can overpower Him. He is wise in His planning and legislation. It's interesting that whenever we read this ayahs of ahkam, of rulings, sometimes this might cause in someone's mind that, why is it like that? As a mu'min, you should never think like that. But even then, for a second, if such things comes in your mind, in the end of all of these ayahs, Allah is constantly reminding us that He is the wise in His planning and legislation. He knows and you do not know. So you don't get to question Allah. It should be noted that most commentators, most of the mufassir, are of the view that the law containing in this verse has been abrogated by the verse, when someone passes away and leaves behind a wife who is not pregnant, it is the duty of this woman to await for a period of 4 months and 10 days. This ayah was abrogated by the previous ayah that we read, where we read about we read about the woman waiting for 4 months and 10 days. Now, divorced women should be gifted something of clothing, money, etc. This is to make up for their emotional suffering because of the divorce. Such provision must be in keeping with the financial position of the husband, as it is a duty on those who are mindful of Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions. As with the previous explanation, Allah explains these verses containing His limits and laws to the believers so that they understand and practice them, and so that they can achieve the good of this world and the afterlife. Do you not know, O Prophet, about those who left their homes in huge numbers, fearing death due to the plague or something similar? This refers to a group of people from the Israelites. Allah said to them, die, and they did. Then Allah brought them back to life to show them that everything is in the hand, and that they have no control over any benefit or harm. Now, Allah is gracious and bountiful to people, but most people are ungrateful for His favors. Fight, O believers, the enemies of Allah in support of His path and to promote His word. Know that Allah hears your statements and knows your intentions and actions, and that He will reward you for them. Who will act as a lender and spend his wealth in the path of Allah willingly with a good intention, so that this may come back to him multiplied? Allah restricts and widens provision and health in accordance to His wisdom and justice. In the afterlife, you will return to Him alone, and He will give a reward for your action. Do you not know, O Prophet, about those nobles from the Israelites after the time of Musa, who said to the prophet of theirs, Set up for us a king, and we will fight alongside him in Allah's path? The Prophet replied, It may be that if Allah makes fighting obligatory, you will not fight. What would stop? They denied that this would happen, and insisted, what would stop us from fighting in the path of Allah when our enemies have removed us from our homes and taken our children as prisoners? Yet when Allah made fighting obligatory on them, they all turned away except a few of them. Allah knows the wrongdoers who broke their promise and turned away from His instruction, and He will repay them for their action. Their prophet said to them, Allah has appointed Saul as your king, under whose banner you must fight. Their leaders objected to the appointment and say, How can he rule over us when we have a greater right to rule than he does, since he is not from the children of the kings, and he has not been given vast wealth which he can use in his rule? Their prophet said to them, Allah has selected him over you and given him great knowledge and physical strength. Ya ikhwan, and this shows the virtue of knowledge, the value of knowledge. Allah grants authority to whomever He wishes in accordance to His wisdom and mercy. Allah is bountiful and grants to whomever He wishes. He knows which of His creation is most deserving. Their prophet said to them that the mark of his being truly chosen as their king was that Allah would return to him the ark. This was a chest revered by the Israelites, which was taken away from them. In it there was tranquility and relics left behind by the family of Musa and Harun, such as the staff and a few tablets. In that there is a clear sign if you are true believers. When Saul set out with his warriors, he said to them, Allah will test you with a river. If anyone drinks from it, he will not be on my path. and must not join me in fighting. The people who does not drink from it will be on my path and will join me in the fight. If someone drinks a handful of water, this will be forgiven. When they reached the river, all the warriors drank from its water, except a few of them who held back despite being extremely thirsty. After Saul had crossed the river with the believers, some of the warriors said, "We do not have the ability to fight Goliath and his army." Those that were convinced that they would meet Allah on the day of resurrection said to them, "So many believing groups, small in number, have defeated a disbelieving group, large in number, with Allah's permission and assistance. Victory is based on faith and not number. Allah is with the patient ones among His servants. He assists and gives them victory." When they came out to face Goliath and his army, they prayed to Allah, saying, "Our Lord, grant us patience in our hearts, make our feet firm, so that we do not flee or lose courage before our enemies, and give us your assistance and support against the disbelieving people." They defeated them by Allah's will. The Prophet of Allah, David, killed their leader Goliath, and Allah gave him kingship and prophethood and taught him many sciences as He willed, including those that are beneficial for this world and those are for the hereafter. If it were not the system of Allah to drive back the evil of some people by means of others, there would be corruption on earth as the evil ones would gain authority. However, Allah is bountiful to all of His creations. Those are the clear verses of Allah which are recited to you, O Prophet, and they contain true stories and just laws. You are one of the messengers of the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah. And with that, we end our second juz. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this sitting from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq to benefit from all of these readings. May Allah give us the tawfiq to act upon whatever we have read and to act upon this, and may Allah give us the tawfiq to change our hearts through these readings and through this pondering upon the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As usual, I want you guys, whoever watched the whole video or some of it, I want you guys to first of all make notes for yourself. The goal is not to understand everything, as I mentioned earlier, but even if you pick up here and there some things, like if you're listening for the last 1.5 hours and you got 3-4 points that really caught you and caught your attention, this is enough, inshallah bidnillah. Write it down for yourself. Write down what you think is the main or are the main themes of this juz. What are some of the learning points, and maybe some of the ayahs that you felt really touched you and connected you. The month of Ramadan is here, benefit from it and share it with people. Maybe share it with others. The ayah that you find is beneficial, share it with others with its tafsir. Maybe Tafsir ibn Kathir. If you're from Bangladesh, from Sheikh Abu Bakr Zakaria Hafizahullah, read his tafsir, look into it, look into Tafsir as-Sa'di, okay? And share this message, inshallah bi'idhnillah. Any beneficial ayahs, any beneficial learnings from these lectures, and even if you can, share these lectures with people so that you get the reward of reading this and teaching it to people equally. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from us. If there's anything that I've said wrong, it's from me and shaitan, and Allah's messenger is free from it. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Inshallah, بإذن الله, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.